Sorry about that, had to pause the video. But where we just left off, we were just reading this text and essentially saying that the reason that we don't think of, and we're not right in thinking about pleasure as the best kind of life, is primarily to do with the kinds of pleasures that come to mind when we think about pleasure. That when we first think of pleasure, we tend to think of things like food, drink, and sex. And Aristotle will say those are definitely not the highest good, definitely not the kinds of acts that are worthy of ordering our entire life around. But there are these other pleasures that you might not even know about unless you become the kind of person who can enjoy them. Once again, remember we were talking about virtuous people and good role models. And so if you want to know what's truly pleasant in itself, it's not enough just to be around anyone. You need to be around people who are excellent, people who really are enjoying those kinds of things that are most worthy of enjoying virtuous people. Let's go to Book 1, Chapter 8. And here we're going to see an interesting discussion that connects this idea of pleasure to virtue and to happiness a little bit more fully. So if you go to page 13, down at the bottom, we'll begin reading where Aristotle says right here, "And the life they lead is also pleasant in itself." Here Aristotle is talking about people who are virtuous and excellent. "For feeling pleasure is one of the things that belongs to the soul. And to each person, that to which he is said to be passionately devoted is pleasant. For example, a horse to one is passionately devoted to horses, a show to one who is passionately devoted to shows. And in the same way, acts of justice are pleasant to those who are passionately devoted to justice, and generally in accord with virtue to one who is passionately devoted to virtue." So here's this idea that what you enjoy, what is pleasant to you, has to do with what you are passionately devoted to, what you seek to be excellent at. And so it's very important for Aristotle that you seek to be excellent at and seek to enjoy certain kinds of things. Now, Aristotle says there's a distinction in the kinds of things. We've already seen this, that there's food, drink, and sex, and there's all these other activities. Aristotle will say that some activities are more worthy of being enjoyed and are more connected with happiness as a kind of pleasure. He says this, "And most people then, the things that are pleasant to them are in conflict with one another, since they are not pleasant by nature. But things that are pleasant to those who are passionately devoted to what is beautiful are the things that are pleasant by nature, and of this sort are actions in accordance with virtue, so that they are pleasant both to these people and in themselves." Here's this interesting thing, that he says that there are certain things that are pleasant in themselves. What makes them pleasant in themselves is that they are in themselves worthy of being done, that they're the kinds of things that are truly being at work, that they're not subordinate to some other good. That, remember the concepts of completeness and self-sufficiency. There are certain things that are complete, worthy of being done for their own sake, and self-sufficient, that they lack in nothing in being done. He says that a lot of the things that we enjoy as people are things that are not pleasant by nature. They're just pleasant to you as an individual. And these things frequently come in conflict with one another. Say your enjoyment of reading comes in conflict with your enjoyment of binge drinking. And so if we keep reading here, Aristotle says, "So the life these people lead..."
Good
All
Lord.
teachers,
please start coming into my office if you have a second. I need to have your rating form signed by the end of today. So please make your way to my office for a second if you have time right now. Otherwise,
this drives me nuts. Does it drive you nuts? Drives me nuts. "So the life these people lead has no additional need of pleasure as a sort of appendage, but has its pleasure in itself." Fascinating here that someone who's virtuous, that enjoys the best kinds of acts, doesn't require extra pleasures as an appendage to their life. They don't need to live for the weekend. They don't need to live for these extraneous kinds of activities that are not part of the central activity of their life. And so part of the keys for happiness here for Aristotle, enjoying the best pleasures, will be enjoying those kinds of things that are self-sufficient, that they lack in nothing, that don't require that you find some other kind of activity to make your life good, decent, or at least bearable. Aristotle, if we continue, "For in addition to what has been said, one who does not delight in beautiful actions is not even a good person, for no one would call anyone just who did not delight in acting justly, nor call anyone generous who did not delight in generous actions, and similarly in other cases. And if this is so, actions in accordance with virtue would be pleasant in themselves." And so here's this idea that just as we said that a virtuous person is the one who's most capable of enjoying the best kinds of activities, and therefore most capable of being happy. We can flip this distinction around to say that a sign that you are in fact a virtuous person is that you do enjoy the best kinds of activities. And so Aristotle in this way will be making a distinction in different kinds of character. That there's different kinds of people depending on to the extent to which you struggle with doing a particular activity and the extent to which you enjoy doing a particular type of activity. He says that you're not even a good person if you don't enjoy doing these kinds of activities. If you don't enjoy acting justly, you're not a just person. If you don't enjoy being generous, you're not a generous person, etc. And so here's this kind of this related notion when we're talking about virtue, is that Aristotle will talk about different characters. And these characters sort of go along a spectrum. That we already said that virtue is sort of a mean between two vices, a vice of deficiency on one side and of excess on the other. And virtue is this excellence in the middle. The virtuous person, as we said, is someone who they do the kalon act, and they do it easily, reliably, and with pleasure. And so what we want to understand are some of these other types of character that are sort of related and close to virtue, where someone is almost capable of enjoying these best kinds of acts, but they don't quite. Well, Aristotle has a couple of names for these. Closest to virtue on either side, at least in this text, these people are called the restrained people. And a restrained person is someone who does a good act. So both of these people, they do a good act, but they don't fully enjoy it. They do sort of the good act, but they do it with a struggle. They're not reliable in what they do, so that there's little true pleasure in acting. Frequently, their act is still full of regret, right? That they do the right thing, but they even regret doing the right thing sometimes, that they sometimes would have preferred to do the wrong thing. Related to these people, the restrained, are the unrestrained. The unrestrained, they do not do the right thing. They do the wrong thing, but once again, they do it with a struggle, and they take little pleasure in it, and it's met with regret. Right? Vice, on the other hand, on either side of the spectrum here, vice essentially then involves no struggle. Here, someone does an ugly act, and just like virtue, the vicious person, they do this ugly act, they do it easily, reliably, and with pleasure. And so if you think about yourself, you're very likely not a virtuous person. I'm sorry to say that. You very likely do not do good acts easily and reliably and with pleasure. You don't act beautifully, right? But you're probably not a completely vicious person, because you probably don't do incredibly ugly acts. And when you do a wrong act, you probably struggle. You probably realize that you're doing the wrong thing and kind of wish you were more like this. The restrained person, they're not all that great. They happen to do the right act, but they struggled with it. And they continue to struggle with it. And they also aspire to be someone who's virtuous. In the end, in order to enjoy the best kind of life, you need to become the kind of person who doesn't just struggle to do the best kinds of acts, but you need to become the kind of person who really enjoys doing the best kinds of acts. And that's the virtuous person. And so that will leave us for this part of our discussion. There we go.